participants and speakers. Once again, after receiving feedbacks of our previous session, we decided to raise another important issue related to youth, bullying and its prevention. We are not considering the term anti-bullying because we need to reach the right approach of awareness. Our mission is to prevent the action of bullying. We are against this. We need to raise voices and show with the action that no more bullying anywhere. Let's make world a peaceful place for all of us. Today's discussion, for this noble cause, we have on board great educators, counselors, and even lawyers. Lawyers are here to help us understand the legal matters related to bullying. There's no particular age, place, time for this. We need to protect ourselves now. We have Mr. Jawaid Butt on board with us, who has experience of more than 20 years in the education system and is running his own school, International School of Karachi. Even he's been awarded by Pearson body. On to you, Mr. Jawaid Butt.
Thank you very much for having me, and great welcome to all the speakers and special guests we have on board today. It's a privilege to have you here, and it's a great honor to have you on board with us. Okay, I'd like to start with the introduction of Mrs. Karen Rice. She's on board with us. She's known as the Ambassador of Peace at Universal Peace Federation. She's located in the United States of America. We also have Dr. Tariq Butt, who is Member Board of Education of Illinois State, Chicago. Mr. Paul Vallis, who is CEO Chicago Public Schools. Mr. Carlos Henrique is not here with us today. He had an emergency and excused us, but he has sent a video message for everybody, so we will be playing that soon. And we also have Mr. Daniel, who is owner of the Scones Group, and Mr. David, who's the education counselor. The special guests include Mr. Todd Jones, who is an experienced criminal defense attorney with over 25 years experience. He has completed his Juris Doctorate Law degree from Santa Clara University, has a second-degree black belt in the martial art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was asked by some people why he has chosen this profession, and many times his reply is that because he doesn't like bullies. We also have another attorney with us, Mr. Shaikh Jawaid. He has never hesitated to raise his voice against injustice and to support the truth and rights of individuals in the country. He has been skillfully practicing law for more than 26 years in Pakistan. Along with that, he is also running political campaigns for the welfare of the society. His expertise show remarkable wide range of civil, corporate, commercial disputes, and critical criminal cases with a high record of success. He has established his own law firm and holds a very soft corner for children in his heart. He's always shown high concerns with the education system, its policies for well-being of children. He considers bullying as an offense to harm the society. He's compassionate and able to sympathize with his clients as he understands what they're going through. He has served as a former judge and twice elected to Executive Committee of Supreme Court Bar Association of Pakistan.
We also have Mr. David Silverberg. He is an educational counselor who was born and raised in Texas and had a normal small-town childhood. Mr. Silverberg experienced some bullying due to his religious backgrounds, but participated in athletics, music, and other activities like his friends. After graduating from California State University, Northridge, Silverberg had an almost 20-year career in public relations until he and his wife, Felice, had their son, Ryan. He then transitioned into education as a special education teacher, where he was a math and science teacher for 10 years. Silverberg was given the idea of counseling by some of his students because they said he listened and cared about them better than other teachers and counselors at their school. He graduated with a master's degree in education counseling and LPC combination from Tarleton State University, and then started his counseling career. As an elementary counselor, Silverberg worked with the students who either were bullying others or were being bullied daily. One of the ways he worked with the students was to bring both the bully and the object of the bullying together in a get-to-know-you session. In most cases, the sessions ended with a handshake and a promise to get along.
From you, what is bullying? And what are your feelings towards it? Have you ever witnessed it?
Well, as we're Greek Orthodox, and my parents were from, we're born in Greece. So we went to an Irish Catholic school back 55 years ago. And to this day, I have vivid memories of being treated differently, not only by the kids, but also by the nuns. I was a righty and I was a lefty and they made me right-handed. And when I would get into a little pushing match with other kids, I was the one who was always blamed and things like that. So I grew sensitive. And of course, from that experience, I developed a severe stutter and stammer. And I stuttered and stammered well into my early 30s. And of course, when I was in school, I was bullied and ridiculed, and I was called things like speed and derogatory terms. And so I was kind of intimidated. So the bottom line is so I've had personal experiences with those things, and they've had a lasting impact, and it's influenced the way I've managed my four major school districts. I've managed four of the largest school districts the largest school districts in 4 different states, including rebuilding schools in New Orleans. So I've always been sensitive to the importance of doing a number of things. Number one, incorporating. Tariq will tell you this. A big part of our curriculum was what we called character education and community service. All the children in the schools had to go through character education and had to perform community service. And the focus, a lot of the character education was focused on just interacting with each other and treating each other respectfully. Tariq will remember, and it was a real interfaith effort. We called it the Good Samaritan program. Remember, we would recognize kids who had done heroic things for other kids, a lot of the times saving kids from being intimidated and things like that. We gave out the Good Samaritan Awards. And it was a really multi-denominational, we would make. So the second thing we did was we made bullying a zero tolerance offense. So while there's different degrees of bullying necessitating different types of interventions, the most severe form of bullying, which was very subscribed, particularly the aggressive verbal bullying and the physical intimidation, could be a zero tolerance offense. And the third thing we did was we created a cadre of young, mostly men, some women, but many more men than women, and not discriminating. The bigger problem was the gangs. And you remember Tariq, Michael Johnson, and the Youth Outreach Initiative. So we had those individuals, and they would be deployed to go out and visit the homes, not only of the children who were being intimidated, but also of the bullies. And so we wouldn't call the police. We would send out the youth outreach officers, and all of our coaches, all of our male and female coaches were required to take on secondary missions, and that was to basically deal with issues like this, where kids are being intimidated and things like that. So everybody became conscious. So it was a threefold approach. One was to incorporate character education, the importance, the treatment of others, the diversity training. We had the diversity calendar. Remember, Tariq? Now, it was all, because a lot of times the bullying and intimidation emanates from differences that people have. Sometimes it's because you stutter. Sometimes it's because of your religion or your background or your accent or the way you speak. So one is education, incorporating it, making it a part of what we teach. The second is really developing a policy that we will not tolerate certain types of behavior towards others. And then the third is to have a cadre of role models, young, youthful role models who can relate, who the children know that they can go to for protection, and who the bullies know will pay them a visit and will initiate action if they're intimidated. And those three things, I think, had significant success.
What act, according to the legal system in Pakistan, exists for bullying? Can you shed some light on that, please?
Actually, to be very honest, Pakistan doesn't have any bullying laws, excepting that certain parts of bullying related to cybercrime, those are punishable under the law. But any specific law relating to bullying is not available in Pakistan. Though in parts of the world there are bullying laws, especially for educational institutions, but in Pakistan such law does not exist.
If there is a school and there is a situation of bullying, the school cannot handle it, but then the school cannot reach out to the authorities.
Schools in Pakistan normally handle the bullying aspect on the administrative side. The child is suspended, the parents are called, warnings are issued, but there is no legal framework. I spoke to a few of my friends who are in the parliament, and they were very excited about this. I said, I'll draft a anti-bullying law, and I want my friends to put up the law, act in the parliament. They have agreed, because this is need of the time. Everybody, the children, the parents are facing the issues every day. This has now become normal. The parents are supportive. I am really at a loss to understand this, that how can the parents support their children in bullying other children? Here in Pakistan, the children, very small children, they are they are accompanied with about 6 to 7, 8 guards, armed guards. This child, very young child of 12, 13, 14 years, he is accompanied by guards, and he goes to school with the guards. So by just having a look at his protocol, the other children are frightened, and they are terrorized. So we need to have some legislation on this, and inshallah, very soon I'm going to draft, share with all of you, and we will put it in the parliament. My friends in the parliament have agreed to this.
Todd, you told me in the email that you yourself have witnessed bullying.
Yes.
And totally against it. And it's a very sensitive question and topic for you. So how in your country this bullying thing is supporting? Like how do you prevent it? What are the...
Well, that's a very good question, and the answer is it's in many various ways. And at least in my state, and I think it's similar in the other states in the United States, there's a difference between how juveniles are handled in the law and adults. And sometimes I see a disparity because activity and criminal behavior and bullying that would never be accepted in the adult world, like someone yelling and screaming and harassing, sometimes is just dismissed as playful activity in the younger realm, in school. And obviously, we're all human beings, and there has to be, the laws have to protect all of us, especially the children. And so there are laws that make it criminal to assault people, adults and children. There are laws that make it criminal to harass verbally, to push, to cause someone to be in fear, make threats. There are criminal laws, but by and large, it's the school systems that have, it's not so much a criminal thing as it is a civil educational system that handles discipline with children and attempts to incorporate the same principles. And I don't know all the specific ins and outs. I know that sometimes power can shift the other way, and I've represented children who are being disciplined in the education system for having done something that in the adult world would have just been treated as a minor thing, but in the legal system or in the educational system for a third grader, he's being moved from one school to the other, and his whole life is being disrupted because of some bad judgment. So I guess the answer to your question is there is a disciplinary system set up within the school system and the education system that strives to be more appropriate for the children and for their situation and being in school, and the fact that they are children, they're not adults, they're not making decisions as an adult is hopefully making a decision. But if their level rises to the degree of alarm and how much harm it's causing, then sometimes the police get involved. So usually it's handled within the elementary system or within the civil educational system, the discipline. But sometimes when it rises to the level of serious harm, the police and the district attorneys get involved. But I don't like to see that. I don't like to see children being put in jail, so to speak, you know.
It's true.
Hi, I'm Carlos Trindade from Brazil, and I'm sorry I'm not with you there live, but I thought I would send a message to everybody. Bullying is something that is relatively new here in our country, and there's still a lot of people that think that bullying is sort of an invention from the modern society and shouldn't be addressed because a lot of people suffered from bullying in the past and it didn't change their lives. But that's not true. I met people who were severely influenced by bullying in their early ages, and I even met someone who actually committed suicide because of the bullying. So it's really serious. It's really something that we have to address in today's society. And an initiative like that, again, Batu, congratulations. We need to discuss that, and it's a world issue. It's a global issue, and we should join forces to fight that. I have a question, and the question is about cyberbullying. Does cyberbullying have the same effect on people as bullying itself? And how can we prevent that from happening? What are the signs that families should pay attention to notice when a process of bullying is happening? And how can we help families and even the people who bully to actually get away from the situation and stop doing it? All right? Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
But thank you so much, Carlos, for sending your message. And he already has asked questions from both of our lawyers. I would like both of them to answer them. Mr. Jawaid, have you heard the question related to cybercrime?
Yes, cyber crimes, though no physical pain is inflicted, but then emotional and psychological pain and harm is caused. And this has now become very common, cyber bullying. And fortunately now in Pakistan, we have cyber laws which deal with cyberbullying. So those laws are available. But then what we need to understand is whether a child is born a bully or it is the circumstances he's surrounded in that makes him a bully. So that we need to understand. Now here in this part of the world, the teachers are also to be blamed. It actually starts at the school. When the system allows the teachers to inflict corporal punishment on the children, and it even gets worse. And in some education institutions, they are also sexually assaulted. So
Yes, true.
So then, when that is the trend, and the children have to suffer so much pain at the hands of teachers, so naturally they would vent out that frustration on someone. So that frustration would be vented out on the marginalized section of the younger children who are not strong enough. So they will go and bully them. So they will vent out the frustration on the other children. So teachers need to understand this also. They need to treat the children as their own children. They need to give them love and affection. They need to take care of them. Even if they are weak in studies, they should give them extra classes, extra time, not to beat them up, not to torture them. So they need to, the trend should change. The teachers have to change. Things are going really bad. So if the teachers
Especially
love
in
the children,
Pakistan.
if the teachers love the children will love the other children in return. They will treat them as their siblings, as their own brothers and sisters. So, but if they are beaten by the teachers, they go and they take out their frustration on the other children. So this is actually what is happening. And there are various other circumstances also, the domestic issues the children face at home, the disputes with the parents. That is also a psychological aspect. But teachers, actually, what I feel is that teachers need to change. Physical torture, physical abuse is not at all the
Right.
option. They should not do it.
Todd, what are the legal responsibilities of the institution to enforce an anti-bullying program? Mr. Todd.
Well, that's a very good question, and I think every institution that educates children, that is responsible for their well-being, has a very strong duty to protect the children. And so I think that involves being very aware of the communication that children engage in. And it's easy to sometimes as adults to let children go off and do their own thing because we're busy doing our thing and we don't want to be bothered. But sometimes, children can be cruel. And without us knowing it, our own children can be receiving messages and receiving bullying. And if we're not careful, we can be completely unaware of it. So to the extent possible, I think the educators need to be aware of the types of communication that children engage in. I think children need to feel, especially when they come to school, that if for whatever reason they feel unsafe, they need to feel that there's a safe place they can go to report concerns. Because perhaps at home, maybe things are stressful and parents who are well-meaning don't have the ability or the time to address all of the issues. And so much of children's actual physical time is spent in schools. I think there needs to be some safe harbor that children can go to express concerns. One of the questions the gentleman from Brazil, I think, posed was, what signs can we look out for? And I am not a psychologist, but I think there are some very well-defined symptoms of depression and fear and stress, like withdrawal, change in mood, a child who's normally happy saying all of a sudden he doesn't want to go out with so-and-so, he doesn't want to go out to play, he doesn't want to go to school, and vague answers of why not. Those can be sometimes the result of fear that's being generated by, something that's happening within his or her friend group. And it's not always easy to tell. It's not always easy to tell, but these are the signs we have to watch out for. Anytime someone doesn't feel happy, doesn't feel engaged socially, we have to ask, is there something going on here that's causing unhappiness or pain? So I hope that addresses it.
Thanks, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I would like to ask you to answer the question what just Carlos asked about what are the danger signs and how can we distinguish bullying from innocent joke? What are the limits?
Well, Mr. Jones was correct. A lot of those symptoms of depression, anxiety, fear, withdrawal, those are signs of that bullying has been taking place. the only thing you can do about that is, or the first thing you do about that is you talk to the student. That's where I come in. My teachers are very good about sending students to me when they see something. And I talk to them about their experiences, what's going on. They do know that it's confidential. So I do make a safe place. My office is a safe place for them. When it comes to determining what is bullying and what isn't, the state of Texas amended their laws a few years ago to say that bullying did not have to be a recurring process. It could be a one-time event, which means distinguishing bullying from an innocent joke can't be done anymore. If there is any type of emotional or physical harm that's done to the student, then it is classified as bullying, from my interpretation of it, my understanding of it. And it makes dealing with those kids a little bit different, because if a student tells me it was an innocent joke, I have to explain to him that it wasn't. I have to explain to the parents that it wasn't. And it makes it a little bit, a lot more difficult in classrooms and in schools and in playgrounds and everywhere else where the students gather, cafeterias. It makes the situation a lot more difficult.
What can you tell us about bullying, and if you have ever witnessed it?
I have witnessed it, experienced it really briefly. Was talking with Batul the other day, and I think that bullying is one person trying to overcome another person. Whether it's trying to make them do something, or whether it's just trying to make them feel bad, making yourself feel better. I have thought for a while now that bullying is really something that is modeled by adults toward children, that it's been around for a long, long time. It seems that it's agreed upon somewhat here, and I've come across it before, that the person who is doing the bullying does not feel good about themselves. They are experiencing that very commonly in their home. And as was mentioned here, in schools, even schools I've seen where there is no corporal punishment permitted anymore. But I have witnessed teachers being verbally cruel to children. And sometimes it's not even done, it's thought of as a casual sort of thing. But it's not to the child. They don't feel it that way. They take it as something that makes them feel bad about who they are and the choices they're making. So one thing I just wanted
Yeah,
to
yeah.
say was that we had a new student in our children's house, our Montessori school, and he was regularly intimidated by his father, and he would that was his first reaction with the children. But I was able to interfere with that in a way of redirecting him to something that was fascinating to him. And after that, he didn't, after he got totally engrossed in this thing, he no longer acted that way with the other children. So that could be a way to help at least younger children change this. But I think that in order for this to improve, the adults need to treat children with at least respect, love wherever possible, but at least with respect.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for that response. Ms. Karen. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Putul, you're going to ask next question?
Yeah, there's a question from the participant to Mr. Jawaid and Mr. Todd, both of you, that sometimes students are bullied by none other than their teachers, like just Mr. Jawaid said. How can you check and prevent it from arising from the very source which is supposed to control it in our schools? Yes, Mr. Jawaid.
Yeah, actually, parents need to speak up. They need to take a stand. The things actually work in a way that the schools have their monopoly. The government schools, probably the government writ is not there. If the government writ is there and the monopoly is not there, then some action taken against. Now the parents are frightened of the teachers of the school that they would not give their children the right marks, or they would create problems for their children, so they don't speak up. The inflicting physical torture by the teachers, it's like become a matter of right, that the teachers have a right to beat up the children. So there is a social responsibility, and the parents, they need to draw a line that this is not acceptable. We cannot send a school where the children are being punished. So, as I said earlier, and the earlier speaker, she was spot on. It has to stop somewhere, and it's not only limited to physical torture. It also involves sexual torture, and the children are so frightened that they cannot go and complain to anyone. Like Mr. Todd was saying, that the children need to have some person whom they can go and complain. But if the teacher is involved in inflicting the torture, then where would the child go? The child cannot go to the police. The child cannot go to any authority. He has to go to his teacher. The teachers now, teachers need to change themselves. Teachers need to be more considerate, and they should, the child should feel safe going and confiding with the teacher. They hear what is happening is the child does not feel safe with the teacher. So where would he go? So that creates frustration in him, and that frustration is vented out by him on the other children.
True. Very true. Mr. Todd, can I ask you a question? Mr. Todd?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll be happy to address that last question as well. But
yeah, my question is from you that nowadays, as you know, due to COVID, teachers are teaching online using applications. Even students are online. So there are certain cases in which, sometimes teachers has to use webcam on, and even the students as well. So there are certain cases which has been reported that they try to share wrong contents during teaching or something like that, messages or take screenshots, which is obviously danger for the teacher as well and for the students as well. So is there any laws against it? Can it be prevented? Is there any way that we can create awareness and stop the students, also alert them not to play these jokes? Because I have witnessed myself certain groups on social media which they made using WhatsApp and all against a particular child or a teacher, even the students, and they play jokes on it, so which is very dangerous. And it's really very bad sometimes, especially with the special needs kids. There was an incident in Pakistan related with a special need kid. They played joke with him and something like that, which really disturbed the parents as well. So please share your views.
Sure, I'll be happy to. I think those types of situations need to be dealt with very swiftly. And again, that raises the issue. That to me strikes me as initially that's more of a disciplinary educational system type of issue as opposed to a criminal, the police, courts. And I think technology evolves and the rules regulating technology kind of lag behind. And so we're just witnessing that phenomena. And so my answer would be that the educators who are using these systems have to be familiar with the technology, and they have to have very clear policies in place. That when a student abuses the technology, just like if they were to run in the hallway or yell and scream in class, it's very clear that's a violation and there will be consequences. Each community has to decide what is appropriate, because some things are more serious than others, and you don't want to just expel someone and ruin their life for one or two moments of bad judgment. But if someone is doing something that causes serious stress and harm and embarrassment and humiliation, that needs to be stopped right away. And so that would be the school educators are in the best position to do that. If I may, can I go back and address that last question as well, though, about what the teachers are abusing?
Yes, please.
Because that to me is a very good question. And we have a saying in English, it's like the fox guarding the hen house. I mean, that's not gonna resolve a whole lot. And my suggestion is if there is a teacher who's causing the abuse, there obviously has to be something in the educational system that is set up to deal with that. And in the United States, we have what are called whistleblower laws that protect people that report things, because the last thing a child is going to do is go report a teacher who he knows that is going to get wind of the report, and then the next day the abuse becomes worse. I mean, that's not going to improve things. What comes to my mind is something along the lines of, within the educational system of teachers, there has to be very clear rules about what is acceptable and what isn't, very severe consequences for adults who abuse children, because that's different from just children bullying children. And I think a combination of like having a carrot and a stick for what are called, for anonymous evaluations that maybe take place every quarter, every 4 to 6 weeks, where students are asked to say, is there any, please evaluate teacher so-and-so. Do you feel safe in teacher so-and-so's room? Do you feel like you can, do something like that? And they remain anonymous, but then the teacher's pay or the teacher's discipline is based on how many good reports they get versus how many bad reports they get, without knowing who is, reporting this stuff. So there's different ways of dealing with that. That's kind of a managerial type of thing, but it's very important in the school system, I believe. So thank you.
Very, very good suggestion. An anonymous survey in which students also feel safe. And I believe lawyers should visit the schools even sometimes. Thank you. Yes, on to Mr. Yasser.
Yeah, my question is for Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Daniel, what do you have to say about bullying? And if you, as an educator, have ever witnessed any incident of bullying on that, what has your reaction? Or have any feedback to give on?
Let me start out by saying there's no thing here, and I'm not sure who originally said it, but it takes a village. And I like that, because when it comes to education, it's got to be the parents, it's got to be the teachers, it's got to be our neighbors, our society, and everybody working together to raise that child and instill some values and modeling for them the right things. Sadly, not just here in the United States, but apparently in other parts of the world, you know, there's just some adults have never grown up. They're still in that, I guess, infant mentality of bullying other people, even when they become adults. I was unfortunate, you know, in one sense, because being as old as I am, I've experienced a lot of stuff, and I got bullied when I was a kid, and because of that, I guess I'm a little more sensitive to kids that are going through that now. And there was recently, I guess it was probably a year ago, I had a young girl that I was in one of my classes, and I noticed that at lunchtime she was crying. And so I went over to her and to ask her what was going on immediately, and she said that her friends had called her fat. And I could just see the pain in her eyes, and it hurt me, because I had been bullied when I was a young kid for the same thing. So I truly could feel her pain. And so I just told her, I pulled her aside and I said, you know, first of all, don't listen to what they're saying. That what they're saying is untrue, because you are a beautiful person. And that's how I see you. And so I said, go wash your face and just kind of collect yourself, and don't worry about what they say, because I know that you're a good person, you're a beautiful person, and just brush it off. And that's all I could think of to say to her in the moment. Well, the next, not just the next day, but really over the next several days, every time I turned around, there was this little girl standing next to me with a big smile on her face, waiting, I guess, to hear some word of affirmation from me. And so we've become fast friends ever since then. And I think the word that I'm trying to encourage everyone to think about when they're in the teaching environment or parenting environment, either one, is to just be sensitive to what a child is going through at home, because we don't know what situations that they are bringing to school. We don't know what they have. I mean, and a little kid, they don't have enough life experiences to deal with all that. And so we've got to be able to, you know, deal with kids and give them that affirmation that they so desperately need. So I guess that would be my word of advice to everybody, you know, that's on the call today. And
thank you so much for sharing that story, Mr. Daniel. And it's really amazing what one can do if you just, you know, train the other person. So we're talking about two kinds of people here, the one who's bullying and the victim, right? The one who's getting bullied.
right.
So if those people can be trained to somehow, just like now you advised that girl. So if kids could be trained in such a way that they don't have to deal with such a situation, they can probably come out of this. All right. So thank you very much for that story, Mr. Daniel. I'd like to now show a video where we had a survey of different children, and they were all asked the question of bullying and what they think bullying is and what can be done about it. So I'm just going to put that video on, so bear with me, everybody.
The guy who bullies other people thinks he's very powerful.
Is something like a stronger kid.
Bullying is a poison to people's heart.
It's a form of harassment.
There could be different types of bullying. There could be physical, there could be verbal, there could be cyberbullying.
Bullying can be done in words and it can be shown in action.
It's mostly found in schools, but it's important to keep in mind that that's not the only place that it's found.
Makes a weaker kid feel bad by hitting him or by calling him bad words, etc.
Even the smallest way to degrade someone's self-worth is bullying.
We're scared they might make fun of the way that we look, the way that we act, the way that we are.
But he doesn't have feelings for the guy who's getting bullied.
When a stronger kid hurts a weaker kid.
A lot of people died from this case.
We get more sad and there's very bad side effects to it, like anxiety and depression.
The guy who's getting bullied, he feels very sad in his heart.
You feel worthless, you feel like there's no one that can help you, you don't know who to talk to, you don't know what to do, so you're stuck in your own little bubble and you don't know what to do. I think that we should educate ourselves about this topic and try to listen to kids.
Some people might join you, some people might not, which is the right thing to do, that you should not join the bully side.
And simply raising awareness on it isn't going to solve the problem. We have to take proper action.
Just sit down, talk to them, and try to help them, and hopefully we can stop bullying.
Okay, so
thank you so much, Mr. These were little views from the children, asking them what they know about bullying. And these were their views which they shared with us. I would like to ask Dr. Tariq that how do you think that bullying affects the health of a child or any person who is being bullied?
First of all, amazing discussion, and everybody spoke so eloquently, especially children. I enjoyed them. And as a physician, first I'll start with the medical side. It's a very complex equation. As most speaker mentioned, from legal side, we have two great lawyers here and educators, So bullying, in the Journal of American Medical Association, there was a specific portion. We talked about bullying and its impact. It does have lasting effect on children forever. And what it does is it produces low self-esteem, as some children mentioned, and it links them to higher risk of depression, which leads to poor school performance, right? And when, as a physician, as a family physician, I started seeing children. I see all age groups because that's why I wanted to be a family physician. And what happens is that whenever a child comes, as Mr. Todd Jones mentioned earlier, that you have to provide them safe and secure place where they feel confident that they are walking into a place where they are taken care of. So you have to have caring adults, as Paul Wells mentioned, as he ran the third largest system, Chicago Public Schools, Philadelphia, probably the fifth largest school district system, many larger district, and I had the great and unique honor of working with them. So you have to really figure out how you make schools safe. Paul mentioned earlier about how do you create on the academic side and also the counselor on the school side. Like when they feel comfortable, we have to make them aware of that they can have a caring environment where they can really have communication, many points of communication and many points of care to stop them from getting bullied. And that can go up to adult life. I'll come to that later because I want to focus on schools and children. As Mr. Dan mentioned about, it takes a village. It, of course, takes the parents, teachers, counselors, everybody, all adults around children. So, first thing is to make them aware. I think we should really make it part of curriculum and instruction module to make every child aware of what is bullying and what are its impact and what they should do if it happens to them. Because if you can't do what you don't know, so it's very, very important. And I have seen on both sides as a public school member and also as a physician that how it can impair their learning capabilities and also puts them in depression for a long time to come. And you have seen many. I mean, the problem is that it's done by peers mostly. Of course, we'll come to different things like teachers and adults when they are abusing children. But, like we should apprise them of all kind of bullying, whether it's a peer or it's a teacher or it's anybody in the school who's working in any capacity. As you know, Chicago and United States has very unique system. And Paul talked about the diversity. Like in Chicago, you have every ethnic group, all parts of the world, students from all parts of the world walking into a school system. Some may not be so proficient in English. And how do you, welcome them? How you make them aware of the different cultures, what may be normal in their culture may not be normal here, and what may be normal here may not be normal over there. So it's a very good thing that he created Office of Language and Cultural Education in the system, which really was very sensitive about everybody who were English language learner, ELL, we call that program. So bullying has its physical and emotional side, and then its impact on learning forever and a day. So you have to really have interventions in place, appropriate time and appropriate point of care. So I think that's something which has to be in place. Also in Pakistan, as Mr. Shaikh Jawaid made there are a lot of educational counseling, as earlier mentioned, and then psychologists, psychiatrists. There's a robust structure to support them along with teachers, caring teachers, as Mr. Daniel mentioned. Because bullying is something you may experience even later in life. You can experience as adults in your workplace. You can find bullies everywhere, but they are maybe labeled. Figure out a way how we can all come together. Also put that kind of system, not only in Pakistan, also in America. Also, we struggle. Sometimes it results in passive aggressive kind of behavior. The person who's bullying is also a child. So how do you take care of that? Why he's a bully? So as a physician, I don't look at it as just bully, aggressor, and a victim. I look at both. I have to have some kind of really neutral approach to that, because I have to help that child also not to repeat that kind of behavior which can threaten that child on a regular basis. So they also need counseling and care, because we have to make sure they also are not living with that kind of behavior which will result in some kind of tragedy at some point in time. So we have seen both ways, the people respond to bullying. Sometimes you have seen the gun violence in schools, right? It happened because some children who were passive and they could not, respond in any kind of way. They respond one time in different kind of way. But most of the time, unfortunately, it results in self kind of damage, and even the most tragic part is suicide, and that can also happen, or they can live with some mental or different sort of depression and anxiety forever and a day, which you don't want. So we have to really figure out a way. All these systems know. We have 2 school safety officers who are actually Chicago police officers. and lead to violence, and you want to make sure that there is some despite the fact, I don't want to go into debate because there are so many controversies about it. We do provide social workers, we provide psychologists, we have licensed clinical social, all sorts of robust structure in the United States. But at the same time, you have to have school safety officers. So, in case it results in some kind of other consequences. So, and then the legal system, as Mr. Todd Jones says, that, like, what are you going to do to a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year-old child who's bullying another child, or 10 years old who's bullying another 11 years old? So there are, the legal structure can be put in place because just to make awareness and just to have a deterrent in place. And as another option, if it doesn't resolve in any kind of resolution, because sometimes, as Mr. Jawaid said, the parents can really themselves feel that they have a right, their child has a right, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of behavior. Or maybe they come from a background where it's normal for them to, have that kind of culture. So I think that, it requires integration of a lot of, educational, academic, social, emotional support structure along with legal framework if needed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a poll.
Question from Dr. Tariq, please.
Yes.
Dr. Saab, we've witnessed that these youngsters throughout the world are getting attracted to drugs. So my question would be, does bullying and this psychological thing which goes on push the youngsters towards drug abuse? Does that also contribute towards this aspect, the drug abuse aspect amongst the children?
Yes, Mr. Mead, that's a very, very relevant question and very, very good question. And David probably, as a counselor, also handles, not that other ones are not aware of that. So, of course, a lot of time children just want to be hip children. They want to acquire a culture which is more popular because you want to mix with the mainstream. You want to be like the main guy, and they may have that culture where, like a lot of students are into drugs early on in life, and that is like, even Paul will tell you, like, we have schools which perform at a higher level and schools which may not perform at a higher level. But believe me, the drug problem is everywhere. It's inflicting every school, and we have to be very mindful of the fact. And because of drug, different behaviors also come with drugs, Whatever happens outside the school, inside the school, it all influences the child's life. So addiction is very high, and I have recently done a course to make sure that I appropriately educate myself to help children who have, these addiction problems, and that again result in other legal problems. Actually, Mr. Todd Jones will tell you, like cocaine, and then they might have to go to jail or may spend some time, depending upon the level of their legal or the possession and legalities which rule those laws. So drugs are a huge problem, and we have to really make children aware of that too early.
Also, I personally feel that this generation and the generation which will follow, they will have serious consequences of drug abuse. It's going to be very, very serious.
Yes, and we have been very proactive, and in Pakistan also, because like the societies are a little bit different in terms of like bringing the issues to surface. So I'm happy that you are going to the legislators, because that's how we do here, advocacy on behalf of children, because they can do advocacy on their own behalf. So as caring adults, we have to really utilize our skill sets and our knowledge to make sure that they get a safe environment. And drug addiction is also a huge problem, and we have to really find ways to help them and provide them avenues and options to get care and receive care which they need. And it's not something we treat it like a disease, like somebody has chronic disease, high blood pressure or diabetes. They really may need treatment for a long period of time or forever. whatever you need, because you have to really figure out ways, because there are things that we can give now as medications to replace or curb their craving for these illegal drugs.
I fully agree with you.
Thank you. We have to do another session on drugs as well, and that's a very good question, Mr. Jawaid. You have already opened the window for us, and I'm sure that all over here, the parents who are watching even, their support is with you. When you're going to go to the legal system to raise these things, we are with you. Our support is with you. Mr. Yasser, over to you.
Right, so thank you very much for that. And we now have a polling session. Everybody can poll, even those participants who are who don't have the video chat on. They can also poll on this. So just have 3 basic questions, and they should appear on your screen now.
It's for us also, it's for students.
It's for everyone. You all have to take part in this.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, so the results should appear on your screens. Question 1, do you feel safe as a student going to your institute or a parent sending them? 58% of you said somewhat safe, and 33% of you said very safe. 8% said not safe. Have you ever faced bullying in your life? 75% said more than one occasion. 17% said on one occasion, and 8% said never. What type of bullying is most common in your country? 83% of you said social bullying, and 50% said verbal bullying. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. And that's the end of the session. Ms. Batul, can you conclude the session?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for taking time out. There were more questions, but as you know, time is short. And the participants, the listeners, Sarah, she's from United Nations, a part of that. She's also over here watching, and all the parents and all the people from different areas, region. Thank you so much.